Wait, you're putting that inside me?
The giant mail-order bride first froze but the cowboy.
The morning was bright and crisp when Lena stepped off the bus. She had never seen a place like this before. The town was small, quiet, and stretched out along a dusty road that seemed to go on forever.
She adjusted the strap of her suitcase and took a deep breath, trying to calm the nervous flutter in her stomach.
After months of thinking about this moment, it had finally arrived. She had agreed to this unusual arrangement, a mail-order marriage, hoping for a new life full of adventures, stability, and perhaps even happiness. But now that she was here, standing in front of the wide-open sky and endless fields, excitement mixed with fear. Lena was not a small woman. She was tall, strong, and confident in her own way, but this place made her feel tiny. The houses were spaced far apart, each with its own stretch of land and farm equipment. Cows grazed lazily in the distance, and the smell of hay and earth filled the air. The sound of birds and the occasional bark of a dog created a strange sort of music that she had never heard before. Everything was so different from the city she had left behind. The crowded streets, the honking cars, the endless hum of people and noise. She had been told that Jake, the man she was to meet, was a cowboy, but she imagined a man wearing a hat, maybe with a rough face and kind eyes. But she didn't know what to expect exactly. The stories she had read, the pictures she had seen online. None of them could truly prepare her for the real thing. She clutched her suitcase tightly as a truck approached, its tires kicking up dust. "Lena!" a deep voice called, and she turned quickly. A man was stepping out of the truck, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a simple shirt and jeans. His hat shaded his eyes, but she could see a friendly smile beneath it. He extended his hand and she felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. "Yes, that's me," she said, trying to sound calm even though her heart was racing. "I'm Jake," he said warmly. "Welcome to my home." Lena noticed calluses on his hands, signs of hard work. She had imagined many things about this man, but seeing him in person made her realize how real and ordinary he was, in the best sense of the word. There was nothing pretentious about him. He seemed honest, steady, and practical. A man grounded in his life and his work. Jake took her suitcase and led the way to his truck. Lena climbed in, feeling a little awkward in the large vehicle. The seats were hard but comfortable, and as they drove off along the dirt road, she could see more of the landscape around her, rolling fields, barns, and grazing animals. The sun shone brightly, reflecting off the metal of the barn roofs and the windows of the houses. Lena had never experienced such openness before, and it was both thrilling and intimidating. "So, Jake said, glancing at her as he drove. "How was the trip?" "Long," Lena replied, smiling nervously. "But not too bad."
"I'm glad it's over."
"I'm glad you're here," Jake said simply, his voice carrying sincerity.
Breaths. "I hope you'll like it here." Lena nodded, unsure what to say. She did not want to seem rude or ungrateful, but her mind was racing with questions. How would she adjust to this life? Could she manage living on a ranch? She had never even fed a horse, let alone worked on a farm. The truck stopped in front of a large wooden gate. Beyond it, the ranch stretched out in every direction. A big barn stood on one side and a cozy-looking house was on the other. Horses grazed in the fields, and chickens clucked near the henhouse. Lena stepped out of the truck, her legs feeling unsteady. She had imagined ranches before, but seeing it in real life was overwhelming. Everything was so big. The tools, the animals, the buildings. Everything seemed larger than life. Jake walked beside her, carrying her suitcase. "Don't worry," he said gently.
I'll show you around and make sure you know your way. You won't have to do anything you're not ready for."
Lena smiled at him, feeling a little more at ease. She appreciated his calm demeanor. It made her feel safer in this unfamiliar place. The first stop was the barn. Jake opened the large doors, and Lena froze for a moment. The smell of hay was strong, and the space inside was enormous. Horses of different colors looked up as they entered, their eyes bright and curious. Lena had never been so close to such large animals. She instinctively stepped back, unsure how to react.
"These are the horses," Jake said. "They're friendly, but you have to be careful."
"Just don't make sudden movements and they'll be fine."
Lena nodded, taking a small step closer.
Psst. She reached out her hand hesitantly, and one of the horses nudged it with its nose. She laughed nervously.
"They're big,"
she said. Breath. Jake chuckled. "They are, but they're gentle once you get to know them." He spent the next hour showing her the barn, introducing her to each horse by name. Lena tried to remember all the names. Star, Dusty, Bella, Thunder, but it was hard. Every animal seemed to have its own personality, and she found herself fascinated by them. She was still nervous, but the fear was starting to fade a little. Next, Jake led her to the fields. He showed her the equipment, the tractors, and the tools he used for daily work. Lena's eyes widened. Some of the machinery was huge, and she had no idea how to operate any of it. A giant hay baler in the corner made her take an involuntary step back. It looked complicated and intimidating. "You'll learn," Jake said, noticing her hesitation. "Don't worry. I'll teach you step by step."
You won't have to do anything dangerous at first.
Basket. Lena smiled, grateful for his patience. She felt a mix of fear and curiosity. She wanted to be brave, but she also didn't want to make a mistake and embarrass herself.
After the tour, Jake brought her to the house.
It was cozy and warm, with a porch that looked out over the fields. Lena took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief. At least inside the house, things seemed manageable. Jake handed her a cup of tea, and they sat on the porch watching the sun slowly climb higher in the sky. "You must be tired," Jake said. "Traveling like that is not easy."
I am, Lena admitted.
"But it's exciting. I've never seen anything like this before." Blissful. Jake smiled. "You'll get used to it. It's a different life, but it has its own rhythm. Once you settle in, you might even like it." Lena looked around, seeing the wide-open fields, the animals, the house, and the barn. She realized that she had a chance to start fresh, to experience something completely new. She felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nerves. This was her adventure, and she was finally here. As the afternoon passed, Lena explored the house, unpacked her things, and tried to make herself feel at home. She peeked out the windows at the horses grazing and listened to the soft sounds of the ranch. For the first time since arriving, she felt a small sense of calm. Maybe, just maybe, she could do this. Maybe she could adapt to this new life. When Jake returned from checking on the fields, he found Lena sitting on the porch, looking out at the horizon. He sat beside her, not saying anything at first, just sharing the moment. The silence was comfortable, filled with the quiet sounds of the ranch.
"You know," Jake said finally, "it's not always easy. Some days will be hard, and some will be exciting.
But if you're willing to try, you can handle it."
Lena turned to him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes.
She nodded. "I want to try," she said softly. Jake smiled, and for the first time Lena felt a spark of confidence. She was far from home, in a strange place, and yet she felt the possibility of belonging here. Breaths. She did not know what the future would hold, but she knew one thing. She was ready to face it, one step at a time. That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lena stood on the porch, feeling the wind on her face. The farm, the animals, the wide open fields, it all felt overwhelming, but also full of promise.
She realized that this was the start of a new chapter, a life that was unpredictable, challenging, but maybe even wonderful. For the first time since she had agreed to this adventure, Lena smiled. She was here.
She had arrived. And, despite the fear, she felt a sense of excitement for what was to come. The next morning, Lena woke up to the sound of birds chirping and the faint lowing of cows in the distance. She stretched, feeling the stiffness in her muscles from the long journey the day before, and took a deep breath of the fresh morning air.
For a moment, she just sat by the window, looking out at the vast fields. Everything seemed so quiet, so peaceful.
Yet, as she gazed at the barn and the animals, a small knot of nervousness grew in her stomach. Today, she would begin her first real lesson in ranch life. After breakfast, Jake arrived at the house, smiling as he carried a cup of coffee.
"Ready for your first day of work?"
he asked, teasing gently.
"Bah, bah." Lena swallowed and nodded.
I think so," she said. Break. Inside, however, she felt unsure. She had spent years in the city, surrounded by buildings and busy streets. Handling farm chores, machinery, and large animals was entirely new to her. She wasn't afraid of hard work. She had grown up helping with her family's small garden, but this was on a much larger scale. Everything here was bigger. The land, the animals, the machines. Breath. Jake led her outside, where the morning sun glistened on the dew-covered grass. "Today we'll start small," he said. "I want you to get familiar with the animals first. Once you're comfortable, we'll try some of the equipment."
"Don't worry, you won't be alone, and I'll show you everything step by step."
Lena nodded, trying to appear confident. They walked toward the barn, and Lena felt her heart beat faster as she neared the horses. She had been fascinated by them yesterday, but now she would have to interact with them more directly. Psst. Jake picked up a brush and handed it to her. "Start with Star," he said, pointing to a chestnut horse that nickered softly. "She's gentle. Just let her sniff your hand before you touch her, and brush her slowly." Star lowered her head and sniffed it carefully. Lena's hand trembled slightly, but she began to brush the horse's coat. The movement felt awkward at first, and she worried she might hurt the animal. But Jake encouraged her.
"See?
Psst. She's fine." "You're doing great," he said. As the morning passed, Lena learned to feed the horses and clean their stalls. She realized that the work was physical and tiring, but there was something satisfying about it. Each task required patience, care, and attention. She was used to instant results in the city, emails sent, orders delivered, but here everything required time and effort.
After the horses, Jake suggested she try helping with the cows. Lena froze when she saw them in the field.
They were large and powerful, far bigger than any animal she had ever been close to. One cow turned and looked directly at her, its eyes wide and curious. "Proust." Lena stepped back instinctively. Jake laughed softly. "Don't worry, they're curious, not dangerous. Just move slowly and let them get used to you."
Huh. Lena's first attempt at feeding the cows was awkward.
Bet. She spilled some of the feed, and a few cows nudged her with their noses. She yelped once, and Jake chuckled, handing her a broom to sweep up the spilled grains. Psst. Lena felt her cheeks burn, embarrassed, but also amused. She had never been this close to animals in such a hands-on way, and she realized that mistakes were part of learning. Next, Jake led her toward the hay storage. He gestured toward a massive hay baler parked nearby. Lena froze again. The machine was enormous, with belts, wheels, and a metal arm that seemed to reach toward the sky. Her stomach twisted. How could anyone operate such a thing? But Jake noticed her hesitation and put a hand on her shoulder. It looks scary, I know.
But we'll start slow. Today you'll just learn the basics. Nothing complicated.
Pray. Lena nodded, still feeling nervous. She watched carefully as Jake demonstrated how to attach bales of hay to the machine and move them safely. He spoke in calm, simple words, explaining each step. Lena tried to memorize everything, but her hands shook slightly as she reached for the first bale. Slowly, Jake reminded her, guiding her movements.
She lifted the bale, feeling its weight.
It was heavier than she expected, and she stumbled slightly. Jake caught her arm gently, steadying her.
Despite her initial fear, Lena managed to place the bale where it belonged. A small thrill of pride ran through her. She had done it! She had faced something intimidating and succeeded, even if just a little.
After a short break, Jake suggested they move to another task, feeding the chickens and collecting eggs. Lena's hands were sore from the hay, but she followed him to the chicken coop. The chickens were noisy, flapping their wings and clucking loudly. Lena laughed as one chicken pecked at her shoe. She carefully collected the eggs, placing them in a basket. It was delicate work, requiring patience and attention. She realized that ranch work wasn't just about strength. It was about care, timing, and observation. As the day went on, Lena began to feel a little more confident. She could see her progress, small as it was. The animals were no longer intimidating. They were partners in her learning.
She had made mistakes, yes, but she was learning from them. And Jake's encouragement made a big difference.
He never mocked her or rushed her. He guided her patiently, celebrating even the smallest victories. During lunch, they sat under a tree, enjoying sandwiches and lemonade. Lena felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. Her muscles ached, but her mind felt alive. She realized that this was work that mattered, work that had results she could see and touch. In the city, she often felt disconnected from the results of her efforts. Here, she could see the direct impact of her actions: the clean stalls, the fed animals, the arranged hay bales. Jake looked at her and smiled. Inspiration.
You're doing better than I expected for your first full day. Most people need a week to get used to all this.
Lena smiled, feeling a warm sense of accomplishment.
Thanks, she said. It's hard, but it's kind of exciting too. The afternoon brought a new challenge. Jake suggested she try riding one of the smaller horses. Lena hesitated. She had ridden horses before as a child, but that had been years ago. And riding on a ranch, with all the unpredictability of the animals and the terrain, was different. Don't worry, Jake said, noticing her hesitation. We'll start slowly.
I'll be right here and you could take your time.
He helped her onto the horse, holding the reins firmly. Lena's heart raced as she settled into the saddle. At first, she felt stiff and unsure, but Jake guided her gently, teaching her to move with the horse and maintain balance. Step by step, she gained confidence. By the end of the ride, she was trotting along the fence line, laughing at herself, forever doubting that she could do it. When they returned to the barn, Lena felt a sense of pride unlike anything she had felt before. She had faced animals, heavy equipment, and her own fears, and she had succeeded. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the fields. Bleh. Lena leaned against the fence, catching her breath and smiling. Jake walked over, handing her a bottle of water. "You did really well today," he said. "I'm proud of you." Lena's smile widened. "I feel proud too," she admitted. "It was hard, but I think I'm starting to understand this life."
As they walked back to the house, Lena noticed how the ranch looked in the late evening light.
The animals were settling down, the sky was streaked with pink and orange, and the air was filled with the scent of earth and hay. She felt a growing sense of connection to this place. It was different from anything she had known, yes, but it also felt honest and real. That night, as Lena prepared for bed, she reflected on the day. She realized that her fear had been natural, but that it didn't have to control her. With patience, guidance, and a willingness to try, she could face challenges and even enjoy them. The thought gave her a quiet confidence she had never known before. Lena fell asleep, listening to the distant sounds of the ranch. The soft lowing of cows, the rustle of leaves, the gentle neighing of horses. Best. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time, she felt ready. She was learning, growing, and slowly becoming a part of this strange, beautiful world. And in that moment, she realized that life on the ranch, with all its surprises and hard work, might just be exactly what she had been searching for. The morning sun rose over the ranch, painting the fields with a golden light. Birds chirped happily, and the cows in the distance were already moving toward the grazing pastures. Lena stretched as she stepped outside, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs. When everything seemed overwhelming, she now felt a little more at ease. The animals no longer seemed intimidating, and the ranch itself, with all its large tools and buildings, no longer felt impossibly vast. Brown. She had begun to see that life here had its own rhythm, and she wanted to learn that rhythm. Jake was waiting for her near the barn, a mug of coffee in hand. "Good morning," he said, smiling. "Ready for another day?" Lena smiled back.
I think so. Yesterday was...
Challenging, but I feel like I can do more today. "That's the spirit," Jake said. "Today we'll start giving you a few more responsibilities. Nothing too hard, but you'll get to try some things on your own."
They began the morning with the horses, as usual. Lena had grown comfortable with brushing and feeding them, but Jake now asked her to help clean the stalls on her own.
At first, she hesitated, remembering how awkward she had been the day before. She took a deep breath and got to work.
The hay smelled sweet, and the animals watched her with calm curiosity. Lena found that she could do it more efficiently than yesterday, moving with a little more confidence. By the time she finished, she felt a small thrill of pride. She had learned something new, and she had done it well. "See? You're improving already," Jake said, clapping her on the shoulder. "Break. It won't be long before this feels normal to you." Lena laughed softly. "It's still a lot to take in, but I'm getting there." After the horses, Jake introduced her to one of the smaller tractors. It was not as intimidating as the hay baler, but it still looked complex. Lena's stomach twisted slightly as she approached it. She had never driven a machine like this before. Jake showed her the controls slowly, explaining each one.
You'll start by just moving it forward and backward, he said.
Nothing complicated. Take your time and focus on the basics first. Lena climbed into the seat, gripping the steering wheel tightly. She could feel her hands trembling slightly, but she took a deep breath and started the engine. The sound was loud, but she remembered Jake's instructions. She pressed the lever gently and the tractor moved forward. At first it wobbled, and Lena panicked slightly, but Jake's calm voice guided her. Good, slow, and steady.
You've got this. By the end of the morning, Lena could maneuver the tractor with more confidence.
It was not perfect, and she still made small mistakes. But each time she corrected herself, she felt stronger. She realized that patience and persistence were key here, just as much as skill.
After a quick lunch, Jake suggested they check on the far fields. Lena followed him, carrying a small bag of tools.
The walk was long, but the scenery was breathtaking. The sun shone brightly, and the field stretched out like a golden carpet. Lena felt a sense of freedom she had never experienced in the city. Here there was space to breathe, space to move, and space to grow. When they reached the fields, Jake showed her a patch that needed weeding. Lena hesitated, looking at the thick plants and uneven ground.
It looks tough,
she said, feeling a little nervous.
It's not easy,
Jake admitted. But you'll do fine. Just take your time and focus on one section at a time. Lena knelt down, gripping the tools carefully. The work was hard, bending and pulling at the plants, but she could see immediate results. Each section she cleared looked better than before, and a sense of accomplishment filled her. She realized that ranch work was not just physical. It was satisfying in a way that made her feel capable and strong. As they worked side by side, Jake told her stories about the ranch, how he had grown up there, how he had learned to work with the animals, and how each season brought its own challenges. Lena listened, fascinated. Brash.
She had never been so close to someone's life in such an honest way. His words gave her a deeper understanding of the rhythm and demands of ranch life, and she felt more connected to the land around her.
Later, Jake introduced her to one of the bigger challenges: checking on the fence lines. Some of the wooden fences had broken boards that needed replacing. Lena's eyes widened at the thought of climbing and hammering, but Jake reassured her.
I'll be right here.
Just take it slow and follow my lead. With Jake guiding her, Lena learned to climb carefully, hammer nails, and secure boards. It was tricky at first, and her hands ached, but she felt proud with each board she fixed. By the end of the afternoon, the fence looked strong and secure. Lena stepped back, wiping sweat from her forehead, and smiled. She had done something that had seemed impossible just a few days ago. As they walked back to the house, Lena felt a new sense of confidence. She realized that her fear from the first days had been natural, but she had faced it, step by step. The ranch, which had once seemed overwhelming, was becoming familiar. She could see the patterns in the work, understand the animals' behaviors, and anticipate what needed to be done. That evening, as they cooked dinner together in the small kitchen, Lena felt a growing sense of partnership with Jake. They chopped vegetables, stirred pots, and laughed at small mistakes. Jake's easygoing nature made her feel comfortable, and she began to trust him more than she had expected.
You're really getting the hang of this,
Jake said as he stirred the stew. Breaths. I can tell you're starting to adapt. Lena smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest.
Rasp. It's still hard, she admitted. But I'm learning, and it's
rewarding. After dinner, they stepped outside to sit on the porch. The sky was clear and stars twinkled above the fields. The sounds of the ranch at night were different from the city. Soft, peaceful, and alive. Lena felt a deep sense of calm. You know, Jake said softly, I wasn't sure at first how you'd handle all of this, but you're proving that you can manage more than you think.
Lena looked at him, feeling a quiet gratitude. Thanks, she said.
Your guidance helps a lot. I couldn't do it without you. Psst, psst. Jake shrugged modestly. It's not just me. You have to be willing to try. You've done that, and it shows." For a long while they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the animals settling down and the wind rustling through the trees. Lena reflected on how far she had come in just a few days. She had faced her fears, learned new skills, and begun to understand the rhythm of life on the ranch. It was not easy, but it was real, honest, and deeply satisfying. As she prepared for bed that night, Lena felt a sense of excitement for the days ahead. She knew there would be more challenges, bigger animals, heavier equipment, and unexpected surprises. But she felt ready. Each day taught her something new, and each day strengthened her confidence. She lay in bed, listening to the distant sounds of the ranch, the soft neighing of horses, the clucking of chickens, and the gentle rustle of leaves. She realized that she was not just learning about ranch life. She was learning about herself. She was discovering patience, courage, and resilience she hadn't known she had. Before drifting off to sleep, Lena made a quiet promise to herself. She would continue to try, to learn, and to grow. The ranch was challenging, yes, but it was also full of life, beauty, and unexpected joy, and she wanted to embrace every part of it. That night, Lena slept deeply, dreaming of wide fields, grazing animals, and the new life she was building. She knew that tomorrow would bring more hard work, more lessons, and more moments to test her courage. But for the first time, she felt certain that she could face it all, and that the life she had imagined was slowly becoming real. The sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the fields. Lena woke with a quiet excitement, stretching and stepping outside to breathe in the cool morning air. The sounds of the ranch greeted her, the soft lowing of cows, the neighing of horses, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. She had been here long enough now to feel a part of this life, not just a visitor. The work was still challenging, but it no longer seemed impossible. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more connected to the ranch than she ever imagined she could be. Jake appeared on the porch holding a steaming cup of coffee. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "Ready for the day?" Lena returned the smile. "I think so. I feel like I can handle a lot more today than yesterday." "That's good to hear," Jake said. "Today we'll see just how much you've learned. I have a few bigger tasks planned, but nothing you can't manage." After breakfast, they headed toward the fields. Lena walked beside Jake, carrying her tools and a small bag with supplies. The horses followed her curiously, nuzzling at her side. She patted them gently, feeling a familiar comfort in their warmth. It amazed her how different her mornings felt now compared to the first day she had arrived. Back then, she had been nervous and overwhelmed by everything. Now, she felt ready to face challenges head-on. The first task of the day involved inspecting the far fence lines which stretched across uneven ground and through thick brush. Jake handed Lena a hammer, nails, and a few boards. "Some sections are broken," he explained. "I want you to repair them with my guidance. Take your time and do it carefully." Lena nodded and began working. Climbing over uneven terrain and handling heavy boards was not easy, but she found that her confidence had grown. She moved deliberately, checking each board and carefully hammering it into place. She slipped once on the loose soil, but Jake's steady hand helped her regain balance. Each repaired section of the fence brought a sense of accomplishment that was deeper than anything she had felt before.
"You're doing really well," Jake said, smiling. "I can see how much stronger and more confident you've become."
"Thanks," she said. "I didn't think I could do all this at first, but I'm learning." After finishing the fence repairs, Jake led her to the barn, where a special task awaited. A new foal had been born the night before, and Lena was asked to help care for it. Her eyes widened as she approached the tiny animal, still wobbly on its legs. The foal looked up at her with big, curious eyes, and Lena's heart melted.
Be gentle, Jake instructed. The foal is fragile, and it's important to make it feel safe. Lena knelt beside the foal, stroking its soft coat carefully.
She helped feed it under Jake's guidance and watched in amazement as it gradually grew steadier on its feet. Caring for the young animal brought a new sense of responsibility, but also immense joy. She realized that ranch life was not just about physical labor. It was about care, patience, and forming bonds with the animals she worked with. By mid-afternoon, Lena had finished with the foal and returned to the barn to help with the larger animals. She was assigned to guide the cows back to the pasture after their midday feeding. At first, she hesitated, remembering how intimidating they had seemed during her first days. But she took a deep breath and approached them calmly. Using the skills she had learned, she moved with confidence, guiding them gently without fear. Jake watched her from a distance, impressed.
Look at you, he said. You've come so far. It's amazing to see you handle the animals with such ease. Lena smiled, feeling proud.
She had faced her fear and found that she could manage even the largest and strongest animals on the ranch. After finishing the chores, they returned to the house for a quick lunch. Lena sat on the porch, feeling the warm sunlight on her face. She reflected on how much she had learned in such a short time. Each day had brought new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities to grow. She realized that the ranch had not only taught her practical skills, but it had also given her a deeper understanding of herself, her strength, patience, and determination. Jake joined her on the porch, handing her a bottle of water.
You know, he said thoughtfully, I wasn't sure how you'd adapt to ranch life at first, but you've proven that you're capable of much more than anyone could expect.
Lena laughed softly.
It wasn't easy, but it's been rewarding. I feel like I belong here now in a way I never expected.
The afternoon brought another important task, preparing the hay for storage. Jake showed Lena how to stack the bales safely and efficiently. The work required careful planning, strength, and attention to detail. Lena moved with purpose, stacking the bales higher than she had before. Her confidence in her abilities grew with each completed section. As they finished the task, Lena stepped back to admire their work. The hay was neatly stacked, organized, and secure. She felt a deep sense of pride. I can't believe I did all this, she said, laughing. Jake smiled.
I can. You've worked hard, learned quickly, and adapted.
That's all it takes. As evening approached, Lena and Jake gathered the animals for their final feeding of the day. Lena moved with ease, guiding the horses, feeding the cows, and checking on the chickens. She realized that what had once seemed impossible was now routine. The ranch no longer intimidated her. It had become a place where she could grow, contribute, and feel a sense of accomplishment every day. After the chores, they sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. The sky was painted in shades of orange, pink, and purple. The air was filled with the peaceful sounds of the ranch, soft neighs, lowing cows, and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Lena felt a profound sense of contentment.
You've come a long way, Jake said quietly, turning to look at her. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Jake. I couldn't have done it without your guidance.
You've taught me patience, confidence, and how to face challenges without fear.
They sat in silence for a while, enjoying the calm of the evening.
Lena reflected on her journey. The first day of fear and uncertainty, the gradual learning, the mistakes and successes.
Each moment had shaped her, teaching her resilience, courage, and the value of hard work.
That night, as Lena prepared for bed, she thought about how much she had grown. She was no longer the nervous newcomer who had arrived weeks ago. Breath. She had become a capable, confident part of the ranch, ready to face any challenge. She realized that this life, though hard at times, was fulfilling in ways she had never imagined. Before falling asleep, Lena made a quiet promise to herself. She would continue to learn, to grow, and to embrace every moment of this new life. The ranch had become more than just a home. It had become a place where she could thrive, a place where she could discover the best version of herself. The following morning, Lena woke with a renewed sense of purpose. She rose early, ready to help Jake with the morning chores. Together they worked seamlessly, feeding the animals, checking fences, and preparing for the day ahead. Lena felt a sense of partnership with Jake, built on trust, respect, and shared effort. They laughed together at small mistakes, celebrated successes, and supported each other through challenges. By the afternoon, Lena was handling tasks independently, making decisions and contributing to the smooth running of the ranch. She no longer needed constant guidance. She had learned to anticipate what needed to be done, manage her time, and care for the animals. The confidence she had gained was evident in every action she took. As the sun set once again, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Lena and Jake sat on the porch, enjoying the quiet beauty of the ranch. Lena felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had arrived as a newcomer, uncertain and nervous, but now she was a part of this life, capable and confident. Breaths. She had faced fears, overcome challenges, and learned lessons that would stay with her forever.
I never thought I'd feel this at home in a place like this, Lena said softly.
Jake smiled. Home isn't just a place.
It's where you feel connected, where you grow, and where you belong. And I think you found that here.
Lena nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. She knew that life on the ranch would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she was ready for them. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more resilient. She had discovered her own capabilities and learned to embrace the unpredictable beauty of life on the ranch. As night fell and stars filled the sky, Lena felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had not only adapted to ranch life, but had come to love it. She had discovered a sense of purpose, a connection to the land and animals, and a partnership with Jake built on respect and trust. And in that moment, she realized that this new life, full of challenges, learning, and growth, was exactly what she had been searching for. She had arrived not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. She belonged here, and she was ready to face whatever adventures awaited her next. Lena lay down that night, listening to the gentle sounds of the ranch, feeling safe, confident, and proud. Breaths. She had come a long way from the nervous newcomer she had been, and she knew that this was just the beginning of a life full of possibilities, hard work, and quiet joy.